What's up everybody, Ben here with Fly Plugins, and in today's video I'm going to be walking you through the steps of setting up your PayPal payment gateway with WP Courseware. I'm going to walk you through the steps of setting up your Sandbox PayPal account with WP Courseware so that we can run some test transactions. So grab yourself some Pringles, sit back and enjoy the video. It's all coming right up. Since PayPal has been around for so many years, we felt we had to include it because frankly, there's a huge population of online users that still use PayPal. However, I'll be honest, PayPal is not the easiest payment gateway to set up or configure. You can just ask my developer. And so don't worry, I'm going to walk you through all of the steps. We're going to set up our PayPal payment gateway. We're going to run some test transactions. Before I begin talking about setting up PayPal, I'm going to assume that you have already watched the previous video on setting up your shopping cart. If you haven't seen it, please click over to that first video as I will be making references to things set up in that shopping cart video. I'm also going to assume that you have a PayPal Standard or business account, not PayPal Pro, PayPal Standard. If you don't have a PayPal account, you're going to need one in order to walk through the various steps in this video. It doesn't take long to set one up. It's completely free to set it up. You could pause the video now and go get that done. If you do have a PayPal account, then you also have a PayPal developer account. It actually comes with your PayPal account, and many people don't know that. And what the developer account allows you to do is it allows you to create Sandbox accounts. So it gets a little confusing because you have your regular PayPal account, your developer PayPal account, and then you have Sandbox accounts. So I will make sense of all this during the demonstration. Lastly, I'm going to be demoing the payment gateway in action set up with my PayPal Sandbox on my local development environment. However, I will not be covering how I set up my local development environment. Lastly, I'm going to be demoing the payment gateway in action setup with my PayPal Sandbox account on my local development environment. However, I will not be covering how I set up my local environment because it would likely be enough content to record its own video. All of the screens that I will show are going to be from my PayPal Sandbox account, which is identical to your PayPal Standard account. So there won't be any differences from PayPal Sandbox to your regular PayPal account. So are you guys ready to set this up? All right, let's jump right in. Okay, so now we are actually logged into WordPress and we are on the settings page of WP Courseware. We're actually on the Checkouts tab and we are in the Payment Gateways submenu item. And this is where you would go to configure your payment gateways for PayPal and Stripe. Those are the only two gateways available at this time of this video. In today's video, we're just going to cover PayPal. So we're going to go ahead and click into PayPal. And immediately you're going to notice a few options right here at the top. But before I get to those, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to talk a little bit about PayPal Sandbox because we are going to go ahead and enable that. Okay. If you have a PayPal account, that means you have a developer account, okay? And it's the same credentials to log into the developer account, okay? So your developer account looks something like this. Once you're logged in to your PayPal developer account, it's developer.paypal.com. You can go down to the accounts area, okay? And down in the accounts area, this is where you can create Sandbox accounts, okay? Because if you think about it, you're gonna need a seller account and a buyer account. You're going to have a PayPal account that's configured so that you can sell stuff. And then you need to have a PayPal account so that you can buy stuff. Okay. So when you get your developer account, you immediately get two Sandbox accounts created for a buyer, and they call the seller the facilitator. I typically like to just create a couple more accounts so that it's easier for me to remember what the name of the accounts are. So if you notice up here, I have a buyer and a seller account for Fly Plugins. And the email addresses do not need to be legitimate email addresses. You can put whatever you want in here. Okay, so once you have your buyer and your seller account set up, we're going to go ahead and go back over to our settings page here, and we're going to go ahead and enable PayPal. When you enable PayPal using this checkbox, it does not actually enable PayPal. PayPal requires the email address, which we are going to go ahead and populate now. Okay, so now that I've got my email address set up in there, if I clicked enable and hit save settings at the bottom, we are actually technically ready to go with PayPal. But there's a few more things we need to configure. But before we run test transactions, I'm going to go ahead and configure just a few more things so we can dial it in just a little bit more so that we can do things like refunds and cancellations. Okay, so in PayPal, you have PDT and you have IPN. When you run a transaction, data needs to pass from PayPal back to the website and talk to WP Courseware so that WP Courseware knows that, okay, this person actually paid for that, and so it was a successful transaction. Let's go ahead and enroll that person. Okay, so the data that gets transferred from PayPal back to the website happens one of two ways. It's either through PDT or through IPN. If it happens through PDT, it happens immediately upon redirect to your website, which is a good thing because it's immediate. But the bad thing is if your website goes down in between the transaction, then that data doesn't make it to your website, and your website doesn't know that that transaction was successful. However, with IPN is just a little bit slower. And so what happens, you still get redirected to your website after a transaction, but the actual transaction isn't actually confirmed immediately. Okay, so IPN kind of communicates in the background. Sometimes it takes a minute or two, maybe even a little bit longer, and then the transaction will get approved. So what I recommend is setting both of them up, because you have PDT, and if PDT happens, great. It happens immediate. Everybody's happy. But if for some reason, your website goes down and PDT doesn't make it to your website, then you have IPN to fall back on so that you make sure that that information is transferred to your website so that all of your students get enrolled as expected. Okay. So I know that's probably more than you wanted to know, but we're going to go ahead and set up both of these. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to do a couple things here for PDT. What we're going to do is grab our site here, because this is another thing you'll need to configure as well. This is your return URL. So we're going to go ahead and just configure that right in here. Okay. And make sure that this is ticked right here, auto return. Okay. I'm also going to go ahead and grab this big long identity token, and that is your PDT identity token. So we're going to just populate that, and we're going to go ahead and save these settings over here on PayPal. Okay, so we're just going to save that. Okay, so we're good to go here, and I'm going to go ahead and just close that out for now. Next, we want to configure IPN. So what we want to do is copy this URL here to your clipboard, and we're going to click the link there. And I've already set up IPN once. If you're setting this up initially, you may get a different screen, but it's pretty much the same thing. You just want to enable IPN and then enter the URL and then click save. Okay, so that's that. Now we have IPN set up, and we'll move down to the next section here, which is the advanced settings area. The PayPal image URL, I'm not going to set that up today, but what that's for is actually for one-time purchases. When somebody does a one-time purchase, not a subscription, they're taken immediately to PayPal so that they can log in to the PayPal site. Well, actually, your logo will get placed at the very top at that point, but it doesn't work on the subscription side. So this is only for a one-time purchase. The image has to be 150 by 50 pixels. So you can actually upload an image here, and then you'd be all set. Okay, we've already talked about PayPal Sandbox. Okay, enable IPN email notifications. So again, remember, IPN is just the way that PayPal talks to your website in the background. So when your website receives an IPN notification, there's a lot of things that happen in the background. One of those things is that email notifications get triggered. Okay, so if you don't want your email notifications like refunds or maybe cancellations to get triggered, then you want to deselect this box here. I recommend that you leave it. That way email notifications go out for cancellations and refunds and that sort of thing, because otherwise your students will not know that those things have happened. Okay. And then we have logging. I'm not going to enable that today, but just for future reference, if you do enable it, if you navigate to tools here on the side, I just opened that in a new tab, you have this tab called System Log, and basically all the data that gets communicated back from PayPal will get populated right here. And this is really mostly for troubleshooting purposes, to kind of figure out what's happening in the background, make sure that PayPal is sending data back, and make sure that the data is set correctly and that sort of thing. So this is really mostly for troubleshooting, but I'm not going to enable it right now. Now, the API keys are not required, but I do recommend that you use them because then you can process refunds and cancellations from the administrative side, but also your students can cancel subscriptions from the front end on their accounts page, their accounts dashboard page. So I'm just going to click right here, and we're going to go ahead and just grab these API keys. Now, normally I would say, you know what, go ahead and hide these, or I would blur these out, but this is just a PayPal Sandbox account. I'm not too worried about somebody coming in and doing something goofy with my API keys, but always protect your API keys. Okay, so we're all configured. Everything looks good. And we're going to click Save Settings. Okay, so now we have officially set up our PayPal payment gateway. So now what I want to do is I want to navigate to the front end. And actually, I'm going to just go ahead and close some of these windows just because. Okay. So let's navigate to the front end. And if you remember back in our shopping cart video, we set up a courses page. The courses page is somewhat like the course listing page. It will list out your courses and provide buy now buttons or enrollment buttons based on if you're selling a course or offering a free course. And so in this case, we have two buy now buttons because we have two courses set up. And so the first course I'm going to go ahead and purchase, I'm just going to walk through a one-time purchase. So I'm going to go ahead and click and check out. Okay, so on the checkout page, you'll notice that we have our product or our course listed here at the top, which we can remove. We also have some of the information that's been pre-populated. That is because I've already done some test purchases here, but these would obviously be blank for a new user or a visitor coming to your website who has not purchased yet. Okay, so if you notice down here at the bottom, there were two settings in our settings page that I made reference to, but we didn't talk about. So if we go back to our settings, we have a title and a description. Okay, and so here on the checkout page, you have your title here and your description right here. So that's what those two settings control. Okay. Now, you also notice that I have two checkboxes for terms and conditions and privacy policy. I covered those back in the shopping cart video, so you can configure those based on the information on the other video. But basically, upon checkout, they have to, or your customer has to, check both of these boxes before they can actually purchase, because if they don't, if they try to proceed to checkout, it's just going to error out, give you some error messages. Again, the privacy policy is enforced because I checked the box that says that they need to check this upon checkout. One other thing to note is that when they check these and they go over to PayPal, they proceed to PayPal. There's a timestamp that gets stamped in the database for both terms and conditions and privacy policy, so that if it comes up at any given time, there's actually a timestamp on these to show when that user actually checked these boxes. So we're going to go ahead and proceed to PayPal. Okay, so I need to log in as my buyer account. And just a quick note right up here where it says Sam Seller's Test Store, that's where the image logo would appear if you set the image logo in the settings page. Okay, and remember that it's only for the one-time purchases. So we're going to go ahead and make our purchase. And there we have it. We have paid for our product. It's going to go ahead and redirect us back to the website. And we have a successful payment. The really cool thing about this is upon payment, when you get redirected back to the website, you actually get automatically logged in. So you basically get a page that looks just like this, but your students can immediately hit View Account, which is their account dashboard that we set up back in the shopping cart video. And they can actually immediately click over to the Courses tab and begin taking their course. Okay, so this test course doesn't have any modules or units set up, so I'm not going to click the button here. But if we look at orders, we have all of our order information here. Subscriptions, obviously we have not purchased any subscriptions yet, so there's no data there to show. And the account page is just a page displaying data about the user's account. Okay, so now what we want to do is let's go back to our course listing page. And you'll notice here that it's detecting that I'm already enrolled into test course 1. If you remember, we had a buy now button here. The buy now button is now gone, and this text just displays here that says that we've already enrolled into that course. So we're going to go ahead and purchase the subscription-based course here. Very similar checkout screen. Check our buttons, proceed to PayPal. And we're going to go ahead and log in with our buyer account. And we're going to go ahead and click Agree and Pay. Okay, so typically at this point, what would happen is the subscription would get processed, the transaction would be successful, and you would get redirected to your website. But because I am on a local environment and there's some weird things that go on with redirects, for some reason the Sandbox will not redirect me back to the website. So I actually have to click this button. You shouldn't have to if you're testing this Sandbox with a live site. Or if you're in PayPal production, that does not happen. So anyhow, we are back on our site, and you notice, did you notice in both of our transactions, we immediately saw that they were successful, and that's because of PDT. Okay. If we did not have PDT, IPN takes a little bit longer. And so then those transactions may not have occurred as quickly. Okay. So now you'll notice we've got 2 courses. Okay. We've got our course that we can take here. And orders, we have 2 orders now. If we click into view our order data, we have our order details. We have related subscription now because we actually have a subscription. And if we go over to our subscriptions tab, we can view our subscription. And you'll notice here we have an option to cancel the subscription. Now this option shows up here because we entered our API keys. So your user can cancel their subscription here. I'm not going to do it in the demo just because I want to show you in the back end where you can cancel for subscriptions. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the front end and how you can test your purchases when you are using your Sandbox. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and navigate over to our orders page. And you'll notice now we have 2 orders. The first order was the one-time payment course, and the second was the subscription course. So let's go into the one-time payment course. And you'll notice here we have just the basic information, the transaction ID for PayPal, which is actually hyperlinked here. So you can actually click this and go right and look at that transaction ID. Over here on the sidebar, you notice that we have order notes. So these are very helpful. And you also notice down here, we have a refund button. So this is really cool because you can initiate your refunds right from this page, and it'll happen on PayPal's end as well. So I'm going to show you that here right now. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you that we have 2 courses that we are enrolled into. The test course was the one-time purchase, and the How to Restore Volkswagen Beetle is the subscription course. And so I'm going to go ahead and cancel the one-time payment course right now. Okay. Now you're going to notice I got order refund failed over here. And so sometimes with PayPal, Sandbox, there's actually some quirkiness and some weird things that happen. But if you notice, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page, and it'll probably come in successful. Okay, so basically what happened there is PayPal did receive that request, and for whatever reason, it responded with a failure, but in the background things were happening, and that request was received, and it actually went ahead and refunded the money, and then it communicated back via IPN, and then you notice that we have our notification here that this was actually refunded. Now, how do we know it was really refunded? Well, if we know it's really successfully refunded, if we go look at our student, test course 1 should be gone. He should be de-enrolled from test course 1. So let's go ahead and refresh, and he's not enrolled into test course 1 anymore. Okay, so now let's go and take a look at our other order, which is a subscription. So here we have a little bit more information because now we have a subscription that's tied to this payment. Okay, so we can come here and view this subscription, or we can actually click over at the top here to view subscriptions and then view the subscription. So there's just a couple of different ways that you can use to navigate into your subscription here. But this is your actual subscription page. And in the subscription page, you can cancel the subscription. Okay. However, if you refund the transaction, so if we go back over to view orders, and let's just say, for example, this person asked for a refund, and I went ahead and clicked refund. It's actually going to go ahead and immediately cancel their subscription, and they are immediately going to get de-enrolled. Okay. However, if we only go and cancel the subscription here at the top on the subscriptions page, if we cancel the subscription, then that does not automatically refund the money. It just cancels the subscription, which means that they are canceling the next billing cycle. So in other words, they would be paid up for this billing cycle. So they should continue to see the course until the next billing cycle kicks in which they would automatically get de-enrolled from the course. Okay. So for example, if I go ahead and click cancel subscription here, you'll notice it goes into this pending cancellation mode. Okay. And when it's in the pending cancellation mode, it's just waiting for the subscription to expire. Once it expires, then your student will no longer have access to the course. In fact, if I go over here to the students page and refresh, you'll notice I still have access to the course. Okay. However, if we were to refund it, and you go ahead and refund it, that means you're giving them back their money for what they've already utilized, which means they should immediately get de-enrolled from the course. Okay. And when a refund is issued out for a subscription, then that it automatically cancels the subscription as well. So if we go and, it failed on this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just refresh here a couple different times. Okay. It finally refunded. It took probably about five minutes for this to refund. So I don't know if you noticed, I actually paused the video to see when this would actually come in. So that's it. So now we're refunded for that subscription. So remember, we canceled it and it left me enrolled because the actual subscription had not expired yet technically. But now that I asked for a refund, I actually got money back, which means I should not have access to that course anymore. So if we go over and look, you'll notice I have been removed from the course, and that is how you perform a refund on a subscription. Whew. Wow. PayPal, Sandbox, and testing PayPal makes my head spin and actually hurt quite a bit. I think I have some ibuprofen around here somewhere. Okay. That wraps it up. Okay. Just an FYI, PayPal Sandbox is very, very finicky compared to PayPal Live servers. Okay. You may experience issues on Sandbox, as you noticed. It's very finicky, but believe me, that's normal. Okay. PayPal Live is faster and much more reliable. So when you actually get to the point where you're going to maybe even test a live payment, which I would recommend doing. I typically do that. You can set a course up for like 1 cent. And you'll notice that the PayPal servers are much more responsive and quicker than the Sandbox servers are. So, question of the day. Do you prefer Stripe over PayPal or vice versa? Or would you use both to give your customers various payment options? Post your answer in the comments. I've heard a case study from a prominent online business that decided to remove PayPal as an option for a payment option, and it resulted in a 20% loss in revenue. Needless to say, they added PayPal back. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on any of our future videos. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video where I'm going to be talking about configuring the Stripe payment gateway.